After a week of jury selection, today it was finally time for opening statements, and it turns out the prosecution and the defense do not see eye to eye.
The prosecution arguing that Trump's alleged scheme to keep an adult film actress quiet is election interference, pure and simple in those words.
Trump defense lawyer Todd Blanche told the jury that the former president, though, did not violate the law.
That's right. This is a classic case of the state of New York versus a nuh-uh. Oh, no, we didn't. I think it's pretty clear he did it. Anyway, this trial will obviously be a test of the fairness of the American legal system, but it's also a test of the media's ability to cover Donald Trump in a responsible way, a task they have acknowledged they've performed poorly in the past.
I think to the degree that the media had lessons to learn in 2016, they seem to have been learned.
It's irresponsible for cable news networks to give Donald Trump hours and hours of free airtime.
Way too much speculation and liberal wishful thinking and attempts to connect dots that did not connect.
It's the media's responsibility to not get distracted.
I think we were much too busy chasing after shiny objects.
All of us have learned some very valuable lessons from the last couple of years in delineating what's significant, what's important.
So brave. Well done. And I think for this trial, we will see the seeds of that introspection bear fruit. Or we will learn that learning curves are for pussies.
Here we go. It's on. It's happening. History will be made.
Shaping up to be the trial of the century.
Maybe the trial of the century.
The trial of the century.
But just might be the trial of the century.
The tax man is here, Donald Trump.
He will finally be forced to face the music.
The legal walls closing in around Donald Trump.
The legal walls are starting to close in on Donald Trump.
Yes, this time, Mr. Bond. It truly is your doom. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm going to leave this room. Obviously, when I leave, I'm not going to press this button right here that opens all the doors and dismantles the killing machine I've established. Don't follow me, Mr. Bond. Perhaps if we limit the coverage to the issues at hand and try not to create an all-encompassing spectacle of the most banal of details, perhaps that would help.
You're looking at live pictures in New York City of Donald Trump's motorcade.
It's about a 20-minute drive between Trump Tower and the court building.
Trump leaving Trump Tower on 5th Avenue.
They're now making their way across town along 57th Street. They just crossed Park Avenue, making their way up towards Lexington Avenue.
He's heading down the FDR
to the Manhattan courthouse on Chambers Street.
Arriving at this intersection of American history with defiance.
Arriving at the intersection of American history with defiance, the brilliant juxtaposing of the gravitas of the moment with simple traffic terms was... He arrived at the intersection of American history where he put a quarter in the parking meter of destiny. Leaving the car, looking to avoid stepping in the urine puddle of jurisprudence. Seriously, are we going to follow this guy to court every f***ing day? Are you trying to make this OJ? It's not a chase. He's commuting. So the media's first attempt, the very first attempt on the first day at self-control failed. And I'm sorry to say that it... I'm sorry, hold on. We're getting breaking news.
You know, he wanted to get a jury seated, so we had a lady...
Bill, I'm sorry to interrupt. Just for 1 second, I apologize. We're just showing the first image of Donald Trump from inside the courtroom. It's a still photograph that we're showing there. Just want to make sure our viewers know what they're looking at.
Yes, for our viewers who are just waking up from a 30-year coma. This is what Donald Trump has looked like every day for the past 30 years. Same outfit. So we have a photograph of Donald Trump in the courtroom. But do we really know what he looks like? The man is a mystery, a Yeti, if you will. Anything could be a deepfake. Do we have an eyewitness account? Perhaps from a dismissed juror.
Would you describe to me what you saw
with Donald Trump while you were sitting inside of that courtroom?
Not very much. He was a bit ahead of me and off to the left. I didn't have a complete view of him today.
Wait, did I have jury duty this week? What the f? Brother? Motherfucker dresses like me too. This is... Anyway, coming up, more of our three-part interview with a guy who nearly saw Donald Trump in the courtroom. So we have a photograph. This is freaking me out, that picture. We have a photograph and we have eyewitness accounts. But do we have anything in a pastel?
A courtroom sketch that we're getting in right now. I'm looking at the courtroom sketch, and Mr. Trump looks like he is glowering. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be a glower or just a glance. And I don't know how it's art. It's not necessarily it's artistic journalism, but it's not a photograph.
Why are you showing it to us? It's a sketch. Why would anyone analyze a sketch like it was? It'd be like looking at the Last Supper and going, "Why do you think Jesus looks so sad here? What do you think it's because of Judas? What if we interview one of the waiters at one of the tables from like a different section of the restaurant, who maybe didn't actually see him, but well, we got time to kill." Well, I guess we'll never know, unless we could talk to the person who drew the sketch. But do we have the time? Nothing but.
Christine Cornell, she was in the courtroom today, the official sketch artist. I want to show one of your sketches today. We're going through some of them, but this one, it appears in this one that his eyes are closed. What was happening here?
My apologies, ma'am. I was sitting 50 feet away. I was having such a struggle to try and get those eyeballs in.
Damn it, woman! Does Donald Trump have eyeballs or no, ma'am? Does he or no? You were in the room. Tell me. Or I will not come to your trinket shop in New Paltz. Tell me, woman. Look, I mean, what the are we doing? I notice here his head is perfectly round. Why is that? Well, I like drawing circles. At this point, you're probably saying to yourself, how many television hours have they devoted to what Donald Trump, a man who has not been off any of our screens for more than 30 seconds in the last 8 years, looks like? The answer is not nearly as many hours as describing his every movement.
Trump craned his neck to eye prospective jurors and flashed a tight-lipped smile.
Leaning to the left a little bit, quiet, his arms crossed as well.
Hunched over with his elbows on the desk. Looked through papers and periodically whispered to his attorneys.
Fidgeted and leaned back, the scowl fixed to his face while he sat squinting.
He was actually biting his lip during today's proceedings.
His lips pursed in that characteristic Trump way.
His eyeballs gone. The hulking former president stood up slowly. He walked towards me with a mixture of desire, scorn, and let's call it age-related confusion. It was then that I realized that this former president of the United States has a front butt. Look, at some point in this trial, something important and revelatory is going to happen. But none of us are going to notice because the hours spent on his speculative facial tics, if the media tries to make us feel like the most mundane bullshit is earth-shattering, we won't believe you when it's really interesting. It's your classic boy who cried wolf blitzer. Look, it's a trial. It's boring, mostly. I've been on jury duty, and I can... That's not me! That's a different guy! Why are you... It's not me. It may be me. Look, trials are a lot of procedural shit and side conferences and sidebars and what's Exhibit 37-2A and you're not out of order, this whole court is out of order. Look, the one person who's had the most normal reaction to the trial so far is Donald Trump.
Donald Trump fell asleep on multiple days during his criminal trial.
As he should. I mean, he's been up since 2 a.m. rage tweeting. He needs his anger sleep.
Today was the second day of Trump's hush money trial, and the first witness was the editor of the National Enquirer. He testified that to help Trump win the 2016 election, he would buy scandalous stories about Trump and then bury them. And what a great job he did. I can't think of a single Trump scandal. Before they could even get into that, they had to hold a separate hearing to find out if Trump violated a gag order when he threatened jurors and witnesses. And that hearing did not go well for Trump.
It was a pretty wild and intense hearing on Donald Trump's gag order. It all turned into a very heated exchange between the judge and Trump lawyer Todd Blanche, who argued that Trump is being very careful. Well, a clearly frustrated Judge Merchan responded, Mr. Blanche, you're losing all credibility with this court.
Minutes after the hearing ended, Trump attacked the judge on social media, calling him a kangaroo court.
Wow. This guy is incapable of keeping his mouth shut for 2 minutes. Has Trump ever considered paying himself hush money? I mean, think about it. But this is a complicated issue about balancing rights. Basically, the prosecution's argument is that a juror has the right to feel safe while serving on Donald Trump's jury, while Donald Trump's argument is that that juror lives at 34 West 52nd Street, and maybe someone should pay that juror a visit and straighten him out. This gag order is serious. Trump might have to pay up to $1,000 per violation.
Yeah, $1,000, that's not gonna stop Trump from talking, okay? You gotta deal with this like any other tantrum. You gotta give Trump an iPad with Coco Melon on it and let him zone out.
Okay. Then he's gonna expect Coco Melon whenever he's upset.
Okay, well, we'll deal with that later, all right? We just need him to stop now. It's so noisy, I can't even think in this house.
Okay. This is not what Dr. Becky would want. Anyway, for more on the results of the gag order hearing, let's go to Desi Lydic. Desi, now that the gag order hearing is over, they can get back to focusing on the actual trial, right?
Unfortunately, no, because during the gag order hearing, Donald Trump made a jerk-off motion, so they needed a gag order hearing to see if that violated the gag order before they could get back to the first gag order.
Oh, but then after that, it's all set.
No, because during that gag order hearing, the judge heard Trump saying, I'm Judge Peepee Head. And when the judge asked, did you just call me Judge Peepee Head? Trump said he was just rehearsing for a community theater production where he plays a judge named Peepee Head. So then they had to have a hearing about that.
But once that's done, the actual case.
Yes, but no, because during that hearing, Trump made another jerk-off motion, but then he said it wasn't a jerk-off motion, so they need a quick hearing to determine how he jerks off. Then a hearing about whether he made the jerk-off motion, then Judge Peepee Head, then the first jerk-off hearing, then the gag order.
And then the actual case.
What case?
The hush money case.
Oh. Nobody remembers that. Keep up with the news cycle, Jordan. You're at the desk, for God's sake.
Yes, thank you, Desi. We'll check back in with you later.
Now, clearly, Trump thinks he's being treated unfairly in this trial, and he's not the only one. Something the gag order is just the start of the oppression Trump is facing.
Okay, Jesse, let me start with you. The prosecution says this is election fraud, and they say pure and simple. Is it?
I call it pure evil. So they've taken away his freedom of speech, and now they've taken away his freedom of movement. I mean, they had more allowances for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed.
Oh, okay. That sounds wild. But I think Jesse Waters is a reasonable man because I was kicked in the head by a horse last week, so let's hear him out. How is Trump being treated worse than the mastermind of 9/11?
The guy needs exercise. He's usually golfing. And so you're going to put a man who's almost 80 sitting in a room like this on his butt for all that time? It's not healthy. He needs sunlight, and he needs activity. He needs to be walking around. He needs action. It's really cruel and unusual punishment to make a man do that.
Are we talking about Donald Trump or an old English sheepdog? You can't keep him cooped up all day. He needs time outside or he'll pee on the couch.
Look, we all know how Donald Trump loves exercise. Because of this trial, he's been morbidly obese for the last 40 years.
Yeah. I mean, though, would Trump even want fresh air and exercise? These actually sound like the punishments the judge would give Trump if he's convicted.
Yeah, I know. He's like, fresh air and exercise, just give me the death penalty. But listen, I'll give Jesse Waters the benefit of the doubt because I was also kicked in the head by the same horse. So let's let him continue.
This isn't lawfare, it's torture. They're making a 77-year-old man sit inside a dingy room for 8 hours straight, 4 days a week.
Wow. 8 hours a day, 4 days a week. It's literally torture, or as the rest of the world calls it, a job. A part-time job, to be fair.
I mean, this is the same guy who's asking to be president of the United States. I mean, that's got to be at least a 40-hour-a-week gig. I mean, is he going to get overtime?
Also, I thought Trump was supposed to be the young, vigorous candidate in the race. Now when he needs sympathy, suddenly he's a poor, elderly man crippled by the weight of his own body, pulverizing his bones into dust against the chair. You know what? Get that horse back out here because I want to give Jesse one more chance.
They're telling the entire world, all the wackos, this is where the former president's going to be at this date, at this time, surrounded by high-rise buildings.
Yes, it's very dangerous for people to know Trump's exact location, which is why he lives in a nondescript building with his name on the front.
The Trump campaign also tells us where he's going to be and exactly when. They're called Trump rallies, and it's how I know where to go to get yelled at.
And, you know, the worst part about him being on trial is that they're just treating him like he's some kind of criminal defendant.
Today, the former president of the United States, if he leaves court to go to the restroom, jail. If he calls the prosecutor corrupt, jail. If Trump moves or says anything, they scream jail.
If he mixes recycling, jail.
Yeah.
If he scratches his crotch, jail.
Yeah. He gets a high score on the SAT, Yale.
His favorite Batman, Christian Bale.
Yeah. His favorite vegetable, French fries. Yeah. Let's begin with a major announcement from the President of the United States.
It's a good day for America, it's a good day for Europe, and it's a good day for world peace.
Oh, a good day for world peace. I've wanted one of those. I wonder what happened. Did the nations of the world finally band together to outlaw war? Did they finally buy everyone in the world a Coke? Is there finally peace between Kendrick and Drake? What is it?
Moments ago at the White House, President Biden signed a long-awaited aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan into law.
In total, about $95 billion will go toward assisting Ukraine and Israel's war efforts and money to counter China's aggression in the Indo-Pacific.
World peace. Okay. Is peace the one with the tanks? Is that the one? I went to public school that wasn't funded because they spent all that money on peace.
I mean, maybe he's being... Maybe the president's being sarcastic, you know, like, it's a good day for world peace, everybody. Right,
yes. But yes, after months of delay, President Biden today signed a military aid package for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan. Yes, Taiwan. Now, they're not at war yet, but you got to book a reservation in advance just to save your spots. And even though this bill passed easily, it had been held up for 6 months because right-wing Republicans threatened to kick Speaker Mike Johnson from office if he helped Ukraine. But now that he let it go through, everyone's been talking about him like this.
I applaud Speaker Johnson's courage.
What you're witnessing here is moral courage.
A profile in courage is putting the nation above yourself. And that's what he did. Not only put this up for a vote, but he also separated the bills, which I thought was courageous.
Did the right thing.
Made his own decision.
Made his own decision. Put his job on the
What do we
line.
call that?
And that's courage.
Profile in courage.
In this case, that's courage.
Courage.
It's courage.
If you look at it in this case,
The word is courage.
Profile in courage.
Courage.
Profile of courage. There's a courage thing that is being provided. Courage. So.
Courage.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So apparently Mike Johnson is the hero here. Sure, a couple of Ukrainian cities fell while he decided whether or not to be courageous, but he got around to it. I mean, we're always praising the first responders. But what about the eventual responders, huh? The ones who jump in their fire truck and say, hey, let's stop for Froyo on the way, huh? Where's their ticker tape parade?
I salute you, Mike Johnson. I mean, not now, but 6 months from now, I'll work up the courage to do it. But...
Move on to a problem that America hasn't solved. Gun violence. A lot of people think the answer is reducing the amount of guns, but Tennessee lawmakers are going in the opposite direction.
Chaos erupting in Tennessee's state capitol, where lawmakers just passed a bill that would allow teachers to carry concealed handguns in schools. If signed by the governor, the Tennessee law would allow teachers to carry guns in schools where top administrators agree. The teachers would be required to have a permit, do training, and get a background check and mental health evaluation.
Congratulations! Now your shop teacher is going to have 2 stories about how he accidentally lost a finger.
Look, I mean, can the students at least vote on which teacher gets the gun? Because, you know, my gym teacher was already on a massive power trip and all he had was a whistle. So...
Today was a big day for Donald Trump versus Johnny Law, with the former president fighting the man at every level of the legal system.
But things actually started off pretty good for Trump. After months of calling him unfit for office, Trump's former Attorney General Bill Barr said he's voting for him anyway. And Trump responded with as much grace as you would expect.
So the former president posting on Truth Social this, quote, wow, former Attorney General Bill Barr has just endorsed me for president, despite the fact that I called him weak, slow-moving, lethargic, gutless, and lazy. Based on the fact that I greatly appreciate his wholehearted endorsement, I am removing the word lethargic from my statement. Thank you, Bill.
Donald Trump is the king of pettiness. I am positive in an alt universe, Trump was a sorority president, just dripping with shade. Like, wow, Bill, I love that bikini. You're so brave to be wearing that. You go, girl.
I mean, it does look like Trump hates Trump ass kisses as much as the rest of us do. Because he'll be like, kiss the ring, and then when they do, he's like, I can't believe you kissed the ring, you little bitch.
So Trump was riding that sick burn high this morning all the way into court, where he was confronted with testimony from the head of the National Enquirer, who wasn't afraid to spill some tea.
Publisher David Pecker returned to the witness stand this morning and explained how he engineered a deal to buy the silence of Karen McDougal, a Playboy model who claimed she had an affair with Trump. Pecker claims he had a deal with Trump and his attorney Michael Cohen to be on the lookout for damaging stories about Trump.
He would buy stories that were unflattering to Trump, and then he would kill them to make sure they didn't become public. Was today a bad day for Donald Trump?
Look, I can't read his mind, but he looked pretty miserable.
Oh, really? He looked miserable. He's not one of those jovial criminal defendants. Coming to court with a smile on his face and a spring in his step as he stares down a future full of prison gangs, public pooping, and shoddy heroin balloons migrating up his colon. Shocker.
Yeah. But yes, David Pecker, pun intended, testified that he brought up and buried negative stories about Donald Trump to help him win the 2016 election, which sounds crazy, but you gotta remember, this was way back in 2016 when negative stories were a bad thing. Now we know that every new scandal just cancels out a different scandal until you become president. But because this is Donald Trump, he wasn't involved in just one court case today. While he was in New York, his lawyers were in front of the Supreme Court arguing that Trump should have complete legal immunity for anything he did while president. And I do mean complete immunity.
If the president decides that his rival is a corrupt person and he orders the military or orders someone to assassinate him, is that within his official acts that for which he can get immunity?
It would depend on the hypothetical, but we can see that could well be an official act.
I object to this guy's voice. Can someone get him a lozenge or something? Sorry, you may continue.
How about if a president orders the military to stage a coup?
I think it would depend.
That's immune.
I think it would depend on the circumstances whether it was an official act. If it were an official act.
If a president sells nuclear secrets to a foreign adversary, is that immune?
Well, I don't know in the hypothetical whether or not that would be an official act.
Okay, look, can we stop giving Trump ideas, okay? Yeah, he's listening to this like, oh, selling nuclear secrets? I should write this down.
Yeah, it sounded like they were loose pitching Netflix action thrillers in the room. Like, in order to save his nation, the president must strangle an opponent in a public death match. Liam Neeson is immune from prosecution. Now, very good. That's very good. That's very good. Very good. Now, the Trump legal team doesn't really believe the total immunity argument. They're just bringing it up to delay his trials. It's kind of like when your kid asks for water at bedtime and you know they're just trying to delay bedtime because kids don't need water.
So I'm pretty sure kids do need water.
No, you're thinking of plants. The wild thing is that the court's conservative majority seems like it's actually going to accept at least part of Trump's argument.
By the end of the hearing, the conservative majority seemed to express a desire to create some kind of limited immunity for official acts for presidents.
So, this is where we're at. The conservative justices think Trump should have immunity. The liberal justices don't. How about we meet halfway? Instead of complete immunity, presidents get a hall pass of 5 crimes that are totally okay if you have the chance. For example, mine would be bribery, insurrection, wire fraud, perjury, and Lenny Kravitz. Money laundering. Money laundering. I got my hall passes mixed up.
Right, yeah, it is kind of crazy. The Supreme Court might actually make the president immune from the law. Isn't this America's whole thing? Is no kings. That's why those people threw the tea in the river. What a waste. They could have kept all that tea.
Yeah, that's my main concern as well, Ronnie. But with all this, there is still a presidential race going on. So, this morning, Donald Trump made a campaign stop on his way into court. And Fox News was there to drink it up.
Breaking this morning, former President Donald Trump making a surprise campaign stop in the last hour at a construction site in Midtown.
He's taking his time with everyone, talking to people, shaking hands, taking selfies. Look at him with this man with the hard hat, taking a picture, thanking him for being there, patting his back. He grew up in New York, grew up in construction on these sites, and now he's talking to the men and women that build New York, that build all these buildings. He knows a lot about that. He's one of them.
Right.
Wow. He was clearly excited to be at a construction site. Shake a few hands, pat a few backs, show them some advanced catcalling techniques, the whole 9.
And those construction workers appeared to really love Trump. Mm-hmm. Either that or they showed up with all their unpaid invoices. Hey, can I get your autograph on this? Yeah, can you initial here and here, please? It's been years now.
In recent weeks, colleges across the country have become the site of mass protests against Israel's war in Gaza. And this presents a challenge for the colleges. Loud and even disruptive protests are a cherished tradition on campuses, and college investments in Israel are a legitimate issue for students. But at the same time, there's a real element of anti-Semitism among some protests, and Jewish students have the right to feel safe at their own schools. So, it's a delicate balance that requires keeping a cool head and listening respectfully. And above all, the colleges should not escalate the tension.
Columbia University's president asked the NYPD to break up a tent encampment.
150 protesters were arrested at NYU in a demonstration. The university says it asked the police to intervene.
Okay. Just to be clear, I said de-escalate. De-escalate.
Chaos on the campus of USC as pro-Palestinian protesters clash with school security and police. LA police officers in riot gear move in, and there are a number of confrontations as the police force encircles the center of campus.
Okay, does de-escalate not mean what I think it means? Un-escalate, reverse escalate. At least don't make it worse.
Officers were sent in at the request of the university and under the direction of Governor Greg Abbott.
Abbott posted a social media quote, "The protesters belong in jail."
Send in the National Guard and wake these kids up.
Do these ever think of a solution besides force? I mean, when this guy's Wi-Fi goes down, is he like, get the National Guard in here? We need to up my modem. By the way, that man is Senator Josh Hawley. You might remember him as the man who riled up a mob on January 6th and then ran like a bitch once they showed up. Personally, I might think twice the next time I endorsed violence, but that's just me.
Yeah, and also, Jordan, you don't use the National Guard because students are camping on the quad. You use them for when aliens invade and you want to test the aliens' weapon capabilities. You know, you're like, how strong are their lasers? Send in the National Guard to find out.
Also, you're not going to resolve tension by adding violence. I'm spitballing here. Maybe instead of armed soldiers, why not try sending in the college improv troupe, you know? A group of communication majors in bright-colored shirts asking for a suggestion should clear out a crowd in no time.
No, Jordan, everybody knows that our college improv makes everything worse, okay? And as will right-wing politicians showing up on campus to yell at the students.
House Speaker Mike Johnson visiting the Columbia campus today.
The cherished traditions of this university are being overtaken right now by radical and extreme ideologies. I am here today joining my colleagues and calling on President Shafiq to resign if she cannot immediately bring order to this chaos. Go back to class and stop the nonsense. Stop wasting your parents' money.
Yes. Stop wasting your parents' money. Be like Mike Johnson, get into government and waste everyone's money. And by the way, Mike, if your problem is with anti-Semitism, I completely agree with you that it's completely unacceptable. But maybe start with your coworker who believes in Jewish space lasers. I mean, just saying.
I will say, it's quite a flip-flop for Republicans to be telling New York college kids to go back to their woke ideology classes. You shouldn't be intense. You should be studying essays on pornography by radical feminist Andrea Dworkin. Honestly, I can't think of anybody worse to give their opinions on how to protest the war in Gaza. Well, there is one guy.
What's happening on America's college campuses is horrific. Anti-Semitic mobs have taken over leading universities. It's unconscionable. It has to be stopped.
Oh, thanks for taking the time to give your feedback, Benjamin Netanyahu. Is there nothing else going on with you?
Yeah, I know. This guy's like, the situation in U.S. college campuses is unacceptable. Do you see how the buildings are not rubble? I am disgusted.
Here's the point. There's a lot of noise and plenty of bad actors. But fundamentally, what's driving these protests is anger over Israel's disproportionate use of force. So, before we respond to the protests with disproportionate force, maybe we should listen to what they have to say. And then, if we still don't agree with the students, then we can send in the college improv troupe.